Welcome to PropTech Pulse, the podcast that takes the pulse of prop technology in multifamily. I'm your host, Shelley Robinson, and each week we'll be diving deep into innovations, challenges, and the future of work in property technology and multifamily. From AI-driven property management to blockchain and real estate, we're here to explore how technology is reshaping the way we live, work, and invest in multifamily communities. Whether you're a property manager, a tech entrepreneur, an executive, or even simply curious about the future of living spaces, PropTech Pulse is your weekly dose of insights and inspiration. So let's sync our rhythms and get on with the show. It's time to take the pulse. Good morning and welcome to PropTech Pulse, the podcast that takes you into the property technology revolution. I'm your host, Shelley Robinson, and each week we'll be diving deep into innovations, challenges, and the future of PropTech with industry leaders and visionaries. From AI-driven property management to blockchain and real estate, we're here to explore how technology is reshaping the way we live, work, and invest in multifamily properties. Today, I have Eric Sharpe with me. Eric, thanks for joining us today. He's a founder, a PropTech investor, and he's here today to talk about his firm, Digital Envy, and what else he's working on. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Shelley. Appreciate you. Glad to be on.
Now, Eric, tell us a little bit about your background. And, you and I connected through Blueprint. So tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, sure. My 30-second pitch there is I'm a creative techie. I started a couple companies in my 20s, everything from IT to marketing, and found myself as a big fish in a small pond in Savannah, Georgia, and eventually made my way over to Atlanta, where I started working with PropTech companies, insurtech companies, and really diving in deeper into, the real estate world. I recently got my license. So I'm a Georgia licensed real estate agent. And a lot of that was just to learn, boots on the ground level challenges that, that agents and brokerages have inside of residential and commercial property. I have founded a PropTech inside of multifamily. I've advised well over 30 companies inside of PropTech, and I'm just excited to be in this world.
I think that is an incredible background, and I like that you have more than one area of focus. So that kind of leads me into my first set of questions. The first one is, where do you see in the next 5 years PropTech going? What are the main themes that you think are really going to stand out in these next 5 years for PropTech?
Sure. Well, I am happy to see AI combined with IoT. That's one of the things I'm most excited about. I've done work in IoT before, and a lot of the challenges inside of IoT was, we could collect lots of data, but what are we going to do with it? How do we make that data actionable? It's one thing to use that data and apply machine learning to it, but what can we do that's more predictive, or what can we do with data that comes from IoT that allows us to talk to it? So I'm very excited to see AI and IoT combine and give us lots more insights so we can look to the future instead of just looking at kind of static data on a page.
Yeah.
I'm also excited for transparency inside of transactions. I still think there's lots of room inside of the blockchain and really having transparent transactions, transparent communication between everything from real estate deals to rental agreements, things of that nature. I look forward to seeing that come to fruition. I know that blockchain has been a buzzword in the past, but I think now that a lot of the dust is starting to settle there, I look forward to seeing that come to fruition. I think I think climate tech is finally there. I think we're beyond the ESG side of things, right? Buying carbon credits is still a big thing, but now that we have AI, right? I'm going to throw AI right back in there. Now that we have AI to look at certain data, we can apply that data and create cost savings, energy savings. We can also, not just cut costs, but find ways to potentially generate revenue using AI inside of climate tech. So I'm very excited about that. And last but not least is materials, physical materials. Being at Blueprint, we got to see some of the physical materials that are out there. There's lots of things like hemp being grown and turned into physical materials. Concrete is one of the greatest contributors to carbon, throwing carbon in the atmosphere. So, I've read articles about, how can we still maintain, the structural integrity of concrete, but reduce the carbon footprint there. And there's lots of different ways to do it using different materials or finding ways to change or enhance concrete, for example.
I actually saw a video the other day where people are actually creating energy in sidewalks, and I believe it was in Japan. So there's all of these disruptive potential now to actually change the way we live, the way we work, which fits into our industry as well. So the three topics that you mentioned are all hot topics, and I think owners and operators are likening this phase in our industry to when digital marketing first came out as kind of the mystery meat. And so how do we in PropTech and in the side of the technology in the industry working to push it out into the industry, how do we clear up the mystery meat of AI and of the blockchain and of climate tech? Like, what are some thoughts that you have around that particular theme with those?
I mean, there's lots of players right now in the AI world, lots of companies that are starting from nothing, right? We're seeing a revolution in terms of, who's out there. I would look for companies that have been in the industry trying to solve these problems that are now utilizing AI. I think those are the ones that are likely going to remain and continue to, help support growth in a way that benefits owners and operators. But it's not to say that some of these new startups are doing a phenomenal job. I mean, if you look towards data centers, there's lots of innovation happening right now inside of data centers, mostly because of AI. The fact that AI is creating this huge boom of everything from, silicon chips, the need for those, to throw inside of servers so we can process more, get more power out of them, to, how do we solve the problem of getting data centers to be cooled at a better rate? How do we make more efficiencies happen inside of data centers? So lots of technology happening there, but what does that mean for an owner or an operator, right? What can we do there? Well, once again, I would look for people in the existing space who are making these changes, who have been doing this for couple years now, and they are actively applying AI inside of their organization in order to enhance their current offerings.
There are some people who are hesitant in implementing it because they don't understand it, I think, sometimes. And so a theme at Blueprint that I heard from several people was the need to provide, that clear use case, the clear value proposition, and the clear results of it as well. And I love your themes, your quick hit themes that you shared. I think all of those are opportunities for everyone to really pave the way and be clear. On that same topic, but then flipping over to the multifamily owner operator side as well, is how do you think work is going to change with PropTech into the industry in the next 5 years? What do you think are the themes there?
Sure. I think you can look at hospitality as sort of the bellwether here. Hospitality has needed to shift due to, a lot of incumbents being knocked head over heels thanks to Airbnb. One of the few, honestly, one of the few unicorns inside of PropTech.
Yes.
Airbnb changed the game, and hospitality has had to stand up and notice. So I think you'll find centralization inside of hospitality has become a big thing. There's companies like Casa and Sonder that are trying to figure out how you can, really reduce the physical footprint of staff on site. How do we get down to like the core staff that's required on site? But then we can centralize everything else. So for example, you can have 24/7 texting, 24/7, phone support for any guests or, in this case, residents, right? If you're in a long-term rental, all that support can be, centralized, right? And, almost said offshored. If you can avoid it, great. But so you can add in AI, right? So we can add AI to address the customer concern and really identify what it is, and then get them to the appropriate place. So acting as that initial concierge, and then getting them to the right, the right person. So, for example, if I am inside of my apartment and I say, "Hey, there's a leak," well, an AI response might say, is it a drip or is it a gushing waterfall, right?
Yeah.
And depending on that answer, that determines whether or not an emergency maintenance call goes out on a Friday, Saturday night to, someone on staff, someone who's nearby, or whether or not it's, something else. It's just a leaky faucet or a leaky toilet. And in that case, a work order gets put through to have someone come out, maybe follow up the next morning.
Yeah. Those inefficiencies that exist, right, in the manual processes, the decision tree, it's a really good theme that we're starting to see many companies talk about. Anything else in the way that work changes that you think is a theme?
I think, honestly, I think budgeting is going to change. I think now that we can use past data to help predict future performance, we're going to be able to do that, right? So we can look at, the way that market rent is going, market rate rent is going up, down, left, right, whatever have you. I think there's better opportunities for, individual properties to make these decisions. A lot of talk has been out there revolving around RealPage and, the Department of Justice, looking at them under, a microscope. And their claim is that ultimately it's up to the properties to determine the pricing. And, I think properties in general are going to be making pricing changes on their own based off of data that they can use. This is no secret. Hotels have been doing this for decades. They call up other hotels and ask them, "Hey, what's your standard nightly rate?" Right? That's, but that was a physical phone call, right? Versus having it automated.
We used to, when I first started out in property management, we would actually do market surveys by fax. That's how old I am. On the budgeting topic, so my birthday's in September, and I spent probably 20 years missing my birthday during budget season. And so I felt there's a giant opportunity to make life better for regional property managers, director of operations, all the people that work on budget reviews for that season of like August to December, and really create efficiencies, because it really disrupts work for all of those roles as well. And the job does not stop. So I think there's a big opportunity right there to, like, if you could offer to cut budgeting time in half by role, that would be a giant win in the industry. So thank you.
A huge stress relief ultimately, at the end of the day. I mean, that's part of it. Obviously, we want to be efficient at what we're doing, but I think the beauty of the future and what it holds for owners and operators and really staff on site is that AI will, take care of the mundane tasks, but also it will help inform strategy and, larger decision making by the ability of just gobbling large amounts of data and then spitting out based on what we ask it to do. If it's a large language model that's meant to do generative AI, then it will spit out information that informs us in a way that makes us feel empowered to make larger decisions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. What do you think are the biggest challenges in adopting new technologies in prop tech when in the multifamily and real estate sectors?
Sure. I mean, this is a people industry, right? I mean, we're at the end of the day, we're heads getting put in beds, as the adage is. Everyone has their own saying of that, but I think one of the biggest challenges is that we have a tendency to get sold something from suppliers, from vendors, and it sounds good, and we see other people enacting it, right? But each property is different. Every location is different. All staff are different, right? We all have different idiosyncrasies, and the understanding of the gaps between the people actually using the software or the solution versus the people making the decisions up top. I hope that anyone who's making decisions up top has actually spent a decent amount of time, on site dealing with the challenges of leasing. But, I think the challenges of leasing over the last 5 years are completely different than 20 years ago. So some of the folks that have been in the industry for over 20 years don't necessarily comprehend the challenge of having 50 different logins or having a workflow that's constantly disrupted from new technology or new, changes, it's just, we want things to be as simple as possible, but oftentimes we overcomplicate it for our users. And to me, that's the biggest challenge is, understanding the jobs to be done for our on-site staff and really getting the buy-in from them before anything is purchased, before anything is implemented is absolutely key. And that's why I like trials to happen, with one or two properties to start, and then you move forward there. So just take notice if you're a supplier, if you don't have a way to get your product or service on site and in trial format, then you're probably going to be losing lots of opportunities.
I like that trial format as well as the pilot program. And then, planning thoughtfully, I think too, as departmental leaders at these organizations of like, how many things do we have planned for next year to roll out, and being thoughtful about that. If people's properties are under renovation, it's probably not the right time to also roll out a new technology, right? Being thoughtful of that as well. What is your bold prediction about multifamily and prop tech in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think that there is going to be a massive change when it comes to, these Class A luxury properties that are going to be above market rate. And in order to maintain that, they're going to have to do a whole lot of heavy lifting in order to command those prices. And everyone else who isn't able to keep up with that is going to fall behind. And, all these fancy solutions we have are ultimately, the bare bones of that solution that these suppliers have. If it's not stripped out and super simple to use, then it's just not going to make the cut for the more luxury Class A properties. And let me just, describe this a little bit more in depth. I mean, I think that properties are going to turn into, the live, work, and play. Like in general, in major metropolitans, you're going to see, the emerging workforce come in and want a property where they can work out of, right? The coffee shop mentality of, that kind of was, I'm not going to say it's birthed out of Starbucks, but, Starbucks kind of led some of the revolution there where, Wi-Fi became a big deal. All of a sudden you could work from anywhere.
Yeah.
But, hybrid work environments are here to stay. And I think a lot of people who live in apartments want a really fun environment where they can hang out and do some work during the day, maybe pop into the office, So that's, I think we're going to see some changes there where there's a big distinction between these Class A properties that are able to provide all these things and maintain it.
Yep.
And then, the bottom 80 or 90% are just going to, kind of fall by the wayside there. You're going to see, just massive centralization for anyone who can't keep up in that respect.
Yeah.
Sort of the difference between providing like a hospitality-like environment versus non-hospitality, right? Just kind of like the do-it-yourself version versus full service. So I think that's one of the big things that we're going to see.
If I'm hearing you correctly, it's like Class A plus will become kind of this Uber service model. A lot of properties that are A now really can't be retrofitted or not easily retrofitted into the new service model. Co-working is definitely a theme that I'm seeing at new builds and new lease ups. And then there is a lot of market overbuild going on right now that I think is also going to take time to absorb. So that's another theme kind of driving into that.
Let me give one more, my hot take. This is really my big prediction. Okay. I think long-term rentals are going to go away. I honestly think that the way people want to live is not getting locked into 12-month leases. And I understand that, as an owner and an operator, you need the consistency. You need that for budgeting. I think the new emerging workforce wants to, they want to be transient. They want to be able to move around and move to a location where they can, choose. We look at like snowbirds who move, north and south, like migration. Well, guess what? I think the emerging workforce wants to move east and west. I think they want to move north and south. I think that COVID gave us a taste of what will be permanent in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And there are some organizations that are, some owners and operators are building this into their identity. Others are tacking it on with technology in order to be able to, sort of rent, a stay temporarily, similar to a hotel or an Airbnb. Part of the challenge is regulation wise, there's lots of different laws and rules that determine whether or not you're a short-term stay or not. 30 days seems to be kind of that distinction there on average. But, I've kind of come from the short-term rental world and moved my way into multifamily. And I just see them combining. I see them turning into the same thing. And I think, the larger owners and operators have the leg up here because they just have more locations. They have the ability to, sort of lock people in with loyalty, similar to how Marriott has their Bonvoy. Yeah. I think that if multifamily does not take a very smart look at that, Marriott may come in and end up moving into multifamily and completely changing the game.
That's a really interesting theme. A couple people I'm talking to too, it's that experiential rental, right? The nomadic rental. And I've even thought that there's room for what I call the nature rental. It's not urban. It's not suburban. People want that. I want to go live in Montana for 6 months, or I want to go live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for 6 months and have that experiential reset. And I do think renters are looking for more of that. That's a really great theme. I like that. If you could instantly implement any kind of futuristic technology in any multifamily property, what would it be?
I'll put my marketing cap on for this. I would love all properties to just come with like a 3D layout that you can walk through, swim through, fly through. I think it's phenomenal for marketing. I think it's great for anyone who's cross-country moving, where they can have an experience of walking through their future apartment, where they could maybe measure their current furniture and plop it in. That ties into the fact that, if someone does want to move from California to Oregon or from Oregon to New York, New York New York traditionally has a little bit smaller square footage. So it's like, how am I going to fit all my stuff in there, right? So, maybe you do some quick measurements and you go, okay, my couch is 8 feet or 10 feet or 12 feet, whatever it is. And then you kind of like plop a couch inside of, this apartment using, augmented reality or virtual reality. I think that's powerful. And I would love to see all buildings just kind of come with that standard. And that's, something that plenty of companies like Matterport out there can kind of do for you. But I think, I would love to see that also for the design aspect, changing the wall colors, changing the paint, right? Rearranging the furniture,
and not being clunky, right? It's coming along.
Yep. Ultimately, a renter wants to, envision themselves in the space. If they can't envision that, then they're likely not going to rent there.
It's been some of the themes around the virtual touring that's going on, right? If you can't see it, how do you feel like you've been in the unit and you feel comfortable? The view is also a big theme. Like, how do you have a view that actually depicts what you're going to be looking at to sell that apartment if you can't actually physically.
And there were some great companies at Blueprint that were putting this together. A lot of this is traditionally sold on the developer side, right? So it's like to help developers, to help, real estate brokerages, which is great. I mean, that helps sell things on the front end, but sort of like, after the building is built, then what, right? How do we lease up? How do we get that place leased up to, 100% as quickly as possible?
No, totally. It's great themes. So themes around AI, blockchain, data efficiencies and decisions, resident experience. What do you think from your background and what you're working on right now from a marketing standpoint? What are some of the themes that you see emerging beyond the touring aspect?
Great question. I think one of the most recent themes is really reviews. I think empowering renters who are currently living in an area to, leave reviews and to speak with future residents. At the end of the day, if you can get an honest review or conversation and speak with someone who actually lives there, I think that is the most powerful selling tool. For example, if you have a dog, you speak with another dog owner who's on site, like immediately you're going to trust their opinion over, whoever's trying to lease you that property. And I don't care if you're working with, a broker or if you're working with someone who works on the on-site team. Yeah.
That's awesome. And what are you working on these days, Eric? What's on your plate and what are you doing in the industry?
Yeah, so I work with startups who are from seed to Series A. My goal is to help with go-to-market strategies, really launching products and helping founders get the product market fit and then build a marketing system so that marketing can either do product-led growth or if you have a sales team, you have a product that's led by a sales team, then, working hand in hand with them. So I love working with technology that is often challenging or difficult. So I've worked in the API world with companies like PropTech, but I've also worked in, the package side, really helping support companies that are trying to revolutionize amenities in the package side of things.
It's a big theme and very different than when I started in the industry from a package perspective. It's actually, at some communities, almost a full-time job for someone and not really a fun job. So I think that's really great. Do you see from PropTech Founders right now a lot of people coming into multifamily that are not from the industry, or do you find it's more PropTech companies from the industry emerging from that experience? What's your 2 cents on that?
I think we're seeing folks in the fraud detection world and the financial technology world. They've been flowing in over the last 5 years or so, for sure. I mean, fraud detection has been a hot topic. Leading up to centralization, fraud detection's been a big deal. We've got loads of great companies out there helping support. But I think what I would like to see is hospitality coming in. I consider hospitality still, in the realm of PropTech, but it is completely different. It is very customer centric, customer focused. It's not just, oh, great, we convince you to rent this place and we don't have to talk to you until renewal comes up in 12 months. I think there's a lot to be learned from hospitality, especially if you work, at a Class A or, a luxury property.
I totally agree. And it's funny, I would purposely recruit out of hospitality all the time when I was a portfolio director here in the Bay Area, because they just get it, right? And it's that model that residents really love, and it does improve reputation. That whole ecosystem that turns into your financial model at that property, your net operating income. So that's a great theme. Anything else you want to share about what you're working on?
I'll tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking to work with companies that are trying to push the limits on, climate technology, AI, renter experience. I am a big fan of updating and changing the way customers experience a product or a service. And I think that, renting is it is both kind of like a product and a service. The service is what happens over time, but the product is I get a safe place to live where, I have all the rights of home ownership except actual ownership of the asset, right? That's taken care of by someone else. So, that's a big deal to me, but there's just a phenomenal companies coming out right now that are in and around multifamily and PropTech that are utilizing, AI, blockchain, and all revolving around customer experience. And, would love to work with companies like that. They're always a lot of fun to work with. And, if you can do a little bit of something, give something back to the climate, that's always nice, right?
Absolutely. Anything we can do to make it better, simpler, better, more efficient. Well, Eric, thank you for joining us today. It was really an insightful conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, and it was a pleasure talking with you. But that wraps up my episode for PropTech Pulse. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation, and we'll have new episodes coming out each week. And Eric, again, thank you for your time and have a good day.
Thank you, Shelley.
And that wraps up another episode of PropTech Pulse. I hope this conversation has given you valuable insights and perhaps even sparked some ideas for your own PropTech journey. Remember, the future of multifamily is being written right now with every technological advance and innovative solution. So stay curious, stay connected, and keep your finger on the pulse of PropTech. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to PropTech Pulse on your favorite podcast platform and share this along with your colleagues. You can also find us on social media for bite-sized insights and updates. I'm Shelley Robinson, and until next time, let's keep innovating, disrupting, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in PropTech and multifamily. Let's build it together.